They smile when they promote you just enough to feel grateful, but not enough to threaten them. They celebrate your small victories while ensuring your large ones remain impossible. They encourage your dreams while building invisible ceilings above your head. They want you to believe you're rising while keeping you forever beneath them, close enough to serve their interests, but far enough below to never challenge their position. Tonight, we expose Niccolo Machiavelli's most chilling warning. They want you always to be beneath them, and they've built an entire system to ensure you stay there. In the grand architecture of human power, there exists no more sophisticated engineering than the invisible infrastructure that keeps those below satisfied with their position, while those above sleep securely, knowing their supremacy remains unchallenged. This is not the crude oppression of historical tyrants who ruled through obvious force. This is the elegant domination of modern systems that make subjects complicit in their own subordination while believing they are pursuing their own advancement. Tonight we enter the strategic mind of Niccolo Machiavelli, history's most penetrating analyst of how power actually operates, versus how it pretends to operate. We will explore his warnings about how rulers maintain dominance not through strength alone, but through the systematic cultivation of weakness in their subjects, how they create illusions of opportunity while building barriers to advancement, and how they use hope itself as a tool for ensuring permanent subjugation disguised as temporary limitation. Through Machiavelli's ruthless examination of how princes preserve power by preventing others from acquiring it, through his understanding that stable hierarchies require not just elevated rulers but permanently diminished subjects, through his recognition that the greatest threat to established power comes not from obvious enemies, but from capable subordinates who might discover their own potential for leadership, through his insights into how ambitious underlings must be managed, through careful balance of reward and limitation, and through his analysis of why those in power will always prefer your grateful servitude to your dangerous independence, we will uncover the sophisticated mechanisms that keep you reaching for advancement that will never quite arrive, working towards success that will never quite satisfy, and believing in meritocracy that will never quite reward your merit when that merit threatens existing power structures. By the end of this Machiavellian revelation, you will understand why your hardest work often yields the smallest gains, why your greatest contributions receive the least recognition, why your most innovative ideas get credited to others, and why learning to recognize these power dynamics is not cynicism, but the prerequisite for authentic advancement that serves your interests rather than perpetually serving others who benefit from your permanent position beneath them. The question that will determine whether you remain trapped in grateful servitude or ascend to authentic power is this: are you ready to see how your loyalty serves their security more than your advancement? And are you strong enough to choose your own elevation, even when it threatens those who prefer you manageable, grateful, and always just slightly beneath their level? Machiavelli's foundation, the architecture of permanent hierarchy. Niccolo Machiavelli understood something that most people never recognize. Sustainable power requires not just achieving dominance, but systematically preventing others from achieving similar dominance. The prince who focuses only on his own elevation while ignoring the elevation potential of his subjects will eventually face challenges from those subjects who have developed capabilities that threaten his position. The sophisticated ruler, therefore, creates what Machiavelli would recognize as managed advancement. Systems that provide subjects with enough opportunity to feel hopeful and grateful while ensuring they never acquire enough power to become dangerous. This management operates through careful calibration of reward and limitation that keeps subjects invested in the system while preventing them from transcending it. Consider how this architecture manifests in modern hierarchical structures. The corporate system provides career advancement paths that appear meritocratic, while actually serving as sophisticated sorting mechanisms that identify and channel potential threats away from real power, while rewarding those who demonstrate loyalty over capability, compliance over innovation, and accommodation over leadership. Employees who show exceptional capability are often promoted to positions that utilize their talents for organizational benefit, while preventing them from developing independent power bases that might threaten existing leadership structures. They become highly compensated specialists rather than potential rivals, valuable contributors rather than dangerous competitors. The educational system operates similarly by creating advancement opportunities that appear to reward excellence while actually serving to identify and channel potential leaders into career tracks that serve existing power structures rather than developing independent power capabilities. The highest achievers often become the most thoroughly indoctrinated servants of systems they could have challenged if they had developed different capabilities and perspectives. Political systems provide participation opportunities that appear democratic while actually serving to channel potential revolutionary energy into approved activities that serve system stability rather than system transformation. Citizens can vote, campaign, and advocate within parameters that have been designed to prevent any outcomes that would threaten fundamental power arrangements. Each of these systems operates through the same Machiavellian principle: provide enough advancement opportunity to maintain hope and loyalty while ensuring that advancement serves system preservation rather than system transcendence. Subjects can rise, but only within structures that benefit from their elevation more than they benefit from their own advancement. This architectural approach creates what Machiavelli would call voluntary servitude, a condition where subjects enthusiastically participate in their own limitation because they have been given just enough benefit to make continued participation appear preferable to the uncertain alternatives of genuine independence or system challenge. The key insight is that those in power don't need to suppress your ambition. They need to channel it in directions that serve their interests while preventing it from developing in ways that might threaten their position. Your drive for advancement becomes their tool for ensuring you remain beneath them while feeling grateful for whatever elevation you receive. Breaking free from this architecture requires recognizing when your advancement serves others more than yourself, when your achievements enhance their position more than your own, and when your success within existing systems prevents the development of capabilities that would enable genuine independence rather than dependent elevation. The illusion of meritocracy. Why your best isn't enough. One of Machiavelli's most devastating insights concerns how apparent meritocracy actually functions as a control mechanism that makes subjects believe their position results from their capabilities rather than from strategic management of their advancement by those who benefit from keeping them at specific levels within established hierarchies. True meritocracy would create unpredictable outcomes where the most capable individuals rise to the top, regardless of their loyalty to existing power structures, their willingness to serve established interests, or their compatibility with maintaining current arrangements. This unpredictability threatens existing power holders who prefer systems where advancement can be predicted and controlled. Therefore, apparent meritocracy operates through what could be called filtered merit recognition, systems that reward capability when such reward serves established interests while ignoring or punishing capability when it threatens existing arrangements. Your merit is recognized when it serves their purposes and overlooked when it serves your independence. Consider how filtered merit recognition operates across different domains. In professional environments, employees who demonstrate exceptional capability in ways that enhance organizational productivity and profit receive recognition and advancement, while those who demonstrate capability in ways that might lead to independent value creation or competitive advantage often face subtle discrimination, limited opportunities, or strategic containment. The most innovative employees are often assigned to projects that utilize their creativity for organizational benefit, while preventing them from developing independent intellectual property or business relationships that might enable them to become competitors rather than contributors. In academic environments, students and faculty who demonstrate intellectual excellence in ways that serve institutional reputation and funding receive recognition and advancement, while those whose excellence leads to challenging existing paradigms, questioning institutional arrangements, or developing ideas that might threaten established academic or political interests face limited opportunities and subtle punishment. The most brilliant minds are often channeled into specializations that prevent them from developing broad understanding or practical capabilities that might enable them to challenge systems they could transform if they understood their complete operation rather than just their specialized components. In political environments, citizens who demonstrate leadership capability in ways that serve existing party structures and established interests receive opportunities for advancement within approved channels, while those whose capability leads to independent political analysis or movement building outside approved parameters face systematic obstacles and character assassination. The most capable potential leaders are often co-opted into existing structures, where their capabilities serve system maintenance rather than system improvement, where they become invested in preserving arrangements that their capabilities could have transformed if applied independently. The illusion operates by making merit recognition appear fair and objective, while actually being highly selective based on criteria that serve power maintenance rather than capability optimization. You are led to believe that sufficient merit will eventually be recognized and rewarded, while the reality is that only merit that serves established interests will receive recognition regardless of its actual value or your effort in developing it. This creates what psychologists call learned helplessness in highly capable individuals who assume their lack of recognition indicates inadequate merit, rather than recognizing that their merit may be being deliberately suppressed because it threatens existing power arrangements that benefit from their continued subordination. Breaking through the merit illusion requires understanding that your capabilities may be far greater than your recognition suggests, that your lack of advancement may indicate the threat you pose rather than your inadequacy, and that genuine merit recognition often requires developing independent power rather than hoping for recognition from those who benefit from keeping you beneath them. The psychology of grateful servitude. Machiavelli understood that the most effective form of control operates not through fear or force, but through the psychological cultivation of gratitude in subjects who learn to feel thankful for whatever benefits they receive while remaining unconscious of what they have been systematically denied. This grateful servitude is far more stable than oppression because it eliminates resistance while maintaining hierarchy. Grateful servants don't rebel because they focus on what they have received rather than what they have been prevented from achieving. They measure their success relative to others in similar positions, rather than relative to their actual potential or the resources they have generated for others who profit from their work. This psychological conditioning operates through several interconnected mechanisms that transform potentially dangerous ambition into safely channeled appreciation. The gratitude programming teaches subjects to feel thankful for opportunities that serve their superiors more than themselves, advancement that increases their value to others while limiting their independence, and recognition that validates their contribution while ensuring their continued subordination. Consider how grateful servitude manifests in different hierarchical relationships. The employee who feels grateful for their job learns to focus on their paycheck rather than the value they generate for employers who profit far more from their work than they receive in compensation. They appreciate their benefits while remaining unconscious of the wealth they create for others. This gratitude prevents them from questioning why the value they create goes primarily to others, why their advancement opportunities remain limited despite their contributions, or why their compensation increases slowly while company profits and executive compensation increase rapidly based largely on their productive efforts. The student who feels grateful for educational opportunities learns to focus on the knowledge they receive rather than the debt they accumulate or the ways their education shapes them to serve existing systems rather than developing capabilities for independent thinking and value creation. This academic gratitude prevents them from questioning why education costs continue rising while educational quality often decreases, why their degrees prepare them primarily for employment rather than entrepreneurship, or why their intellectual development serves institutional interests more than their own authentic development. The citizen who feels grateful for democratic participation learns to focus on their right to vote, rather than the limitation of choices to pre-approved candidates who serve established interests, regardless of party affiliation. The ways their political participation channels potentially revolutionary energy into system-supporting activities. This civic gratitude prevents them from questioning why their vote rarely produces significant change in policies that affect their lives, why political alternatives that might actually serve their interests never appear on ballots, or why their democratic participation seems to serve system legitimacy more than citizen empowerment. The psychology of grateful servitude operates through what Machiavelli would recognize as managed comparison, ensuring that subjects compare their situation to worse alternatives rather than to better possibilities, to others in similar positions rather than to those who benefit from their subordination, to their past limitations rather than their unrealized potential. This managed comparison creates satisfaction with limited advancement, while preventing recognition of how much more advancement would be possible if existing barriers were removed, how much more value they could create and capture if they weren't systematically channeled into subordinate roles, how much more fulfilling their lives could be if they weren't constantly serving others' interests more than their own. Breaking free from grateful servitude requires shifting your comparison framework from what you have received to what you have been prevented from achieving, from your current position to your actual potential, from gratitude for limited opportunities to recognition of systematically denied possibilities. Economic chains: how financial dependency ensures subordination. Machiavelli would immediately recognize modern economic systems as perhaps the most sophisticated mechanism ever devised for ensuring permanent hierarchy through the creation of financial dependencies that make subordination feel voluntary, while making independence appear financially impossible or prohibitively risky for most people. The economic chain system operates by ensuring that most people must continuously work for others to meet basic survival needs, while simultaneously preventing them from accumulating sufficient resources to achieve genuine independence or to develop competitive alternatives to existing economic arrangements. This dependency creation begins early through educational debt that forces graduates to seek high-paying employment immediately rather than pursuing entrepreneurial opportunities that might eventually provide greater independence but require initial investment periods without guaranteed income. The debt burden ensures that even highly capable individuals must prioritize immediate income over long-term independence building, locking them into employment relationships where they generate value for others while receiving enough compensation to service their debts and maintain acceptable living standards, but rarely enough to achieve genuine financial freedom. Consider how economic chains operate through different life stages to maintain subordination throughout entire careers. Young adults accumulate educational debt that requires steady employment to service, preventing them from taking entrepreneurial risks or pursuing lower-paying but independence-building opportunities during the years when such risks would be most feasible. Middle-aged adults accumulate mortgage debt, family obligations, and lifestyle expenses that require continued high income to maintain, preventing them from leaving employment for entrepreneurial ventures even when they have developed capabilities and insights that would enable independent success. Older adults become dependent on employer-provided retirement benefits and healthcare coverage that would be lost if they left employment, preventing them from pursuing independent work, even when they have accumulated significant experience and professional relationships that could support independent success. Each life stage creates different financial pressures that serve the same function, ensuring that capable individuals remain employed by others, rather than becoming independent competitors who might threaten existing businesses or challenge established economic arrangements. The system also operates through what economists call lifestyle inflation, the tendency for expenses to increase with income, ensuring that higher-paid employees remain financially dependent despite earning more money. The executive making 10 times entry-level salary often has proportionally similar financial pressures due to lifestyle obligations that require continued employment. This lifestyle inflation serves to maintain hierarchy even among high earners who could theoretically achieve independence, but who become trapped in consumption patterns that require continued subordination to maintain their standard of living and social status. Consumer credit systems reinforce economic chains by making lifestyle maintenance possible through debt that requires continued employment to service, creating cycles where people work to pay for things they were encouraged to buy through marketing that exploited their psychological vulnerabilities and social insecurities. The economic insight that Machiavelli would recognize is that these chains don't prevent advancement, they channel advancement in directions that serve existing power structures rather than building independent power. You can advance within systems while becoming more thoroughly trapped by those same systems. Breaking free from economic chains requires understanding how your financial obligations may be preventing independence more than your lack of capability, how your expenses may be serving others' interests more than your authentic preferences, and how achieving genuine independence often requires reducing rather than increasing lifestyle obligations. Information control. Managing what you know. Machiavelli understood that controlling information is often more effective than controlling people directly, because subjects who possess incomplete or distorted information will make decisions that serve their superiors' interests while believing they are acting according to their own best judgment and authentic preferences. Modern information control operates through what intelligence analysts call information flooding, rather than information restriction, providing so much information that most people cannot process it effectively, while ensuring that the most accessible, appealing, and socially reinforced information serves established interests rather than independent analysis. This approach is more sophisticated than historical censorship because it provides the appearance of information freedom while actually managing which information receives attention, how it is presented, and what conclusions people are encouraged to draw from their information consumption. Consider how information control maintains hierarchy through different mechanisms that appear informational while actually serving control functions. Search algorithms determine which information appears first when people seek answers to questions, prioritizing sources that serve commercial and political interests over accuracy, completeness, or utility for independent decision-making. Media coverage determines which issues receive attention and which can be safely ignored, shaping public understanding of what problems deserve concern and what solutions deserve consideration. The media doesn't need to tell people what to think about specific issues. It just needs to determine which issues they think about and which they ignore. Educational curricula determine which knowledge is considered essential and which is considered irrelevant or dangerous, shaping students to serve existing systems rather than developing capabilities for independent analysis or alternative value creation. The information control serves hierarchy maintenance by ensuring that people understand enough about their immediate responsibilities to fulfill them effectively while remaining ignorant about larger systems that might be exploitative, alternatives that might be preferable, or capabilities they might possess for creating independent value rather than continuing subordinate service. Professional specialization reinforces information control by creating experts who understand their specific domains thoroughly while remaining ignorant about how their domains connect with larger systems that might be exploiting their expertise for purposes they wouldn't support if they understood the complete operation. The specialist becomes highly knowledgeable about their area, while remaining deliberately ignorant about how their knowledge serves interests they might oppose if they understood the broader context of their work and its ultimate applications and beneficiaries. Social media algorithms create information bubbles that reinforce existing beliefs rather than exposing people to information that might challenge their assumptions, expand their understanding, or provide insights that might lead to questioning established arrangements that benefit from continued ignorance and compliant participation. Breaking free from information control requires developing what intelligence analysts call alternative source intelligence, seeking information from sources that don't benefit from your continued subordination, that might actually benefit from your independence and success, that have motivations aligned with your authentic development rather than your continued service to existing hierarchies. This intelligence gathering involves questioning not just the accuracy of information you receive, but the motivations of those providing it, the interests served by encouraging certain beliefs and behaviors, and the alternatives that might not be presented for your consideration because they threaten existing arrangements that benefit from your ignorance. Social engineering, how they shape your aspiration. Perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of maintaining permanent hierarchy involves shaping what people want, rather than preventing them from getting what they want. Machiavelli would recognize modern aspiration management as the ultimate refinement of political control, making subjects desire exactly what serves their superiors' interests, while believing their desires represent their authentic preferences and personal choices. This social engineering operates through cultural programming that teaches people to want advancement opportunities that serve existing power structures, lifestyle goals that require continued subordination, and success metrics that measure their value to others rather than their independence or authentic fulfillment. The programming begins early through educational environments that teach children to compete for external validation rather than developing internal standards, to seek approval from authorities rather than trusting their own judgment, and to measure success through recognition from systems that benefit from their continued participation and dependence. Consider how aspiration shaping maintains hierarchy through different cultural mechanisms that appear supportive while actually serving control functions. Career guidance programs channel ambitious students toward employment opportunities that serve organizational needs rather than individual development, emphasizing job security over entrepreneurial capability and specialization over broad competence that might enable independence. The most capable students are often guided toward careers that utilize their talents for institutional benefit, while preventing them from developing business skills, independent income streams, or comprehensive understanding that might enable them to become competitors rather than employees. Lifestyle marketing creates desires for consumer goods, living arrangements, and social experiences that require continued high income to maintain, ensuring that even successful individuals remain financially dependent on employment or business relationships that serve others' interests more than their own authentic preferences. The marketing doesn't just sell products, it sells identity concepts that require continued consumption to maintain, creating psychological dependencies that reinforce economic dependencies in ways that serve commercial interests while preventing the lifestyle simplification that might enable genuine independence. Social status systems reward achievements that serve existing hierarchies while providing minimal recognition for achievements that might threaten established arrangements. The highest social status is reserved for those who serve established interests most effectively, rather than those who create the most independent value or contribute most to human flourishing. Media representation reinforces aspiration management by consistently portraying certain types of success as admirable, while making alternative approaches appear risky, selfish, or impractical for ordinary people. The heroes in popular culture typically achieve success by serving established systems rather than by challenging or transcending them. Professional role models are selected and promoted based on their service to existing arrangements, rather than their independent achievements or their success in creating alternatives that might inspire others to pursue independence, rather than seeking advancement within established hierarchies. The social engineering creates what psychologists call manufactured desires, wants that feel authentic to the individual, but actually serve interests other than their own development, independence, or genuine satisfaction. These desires create motivation for continued participation in arrangements that benefit others more than the participants themselves. Breaking free from aspiration management requires examining your goals to determine whether they serve your authentic development or whether they have been programmed to serve others' interests in your continued subordination, whether they build your independence or enhance your dependence, whether they reflect your genuine values or values that have been marketed to you for others' benefit. The promotion trap. Advancement that ensures entrapment. Machiavelli would immediately recognize modern promotion systems as sophisticated mechanisms for managing potentially dangerous subordinates through advancement that appears rewarding while actually serving to increase their dependence, reduce their independence options, and ensure their continued loyalty to systems that benefit from their elevated service. The promotion trap operates by providing advancement that requires greater specialization, increases lifestyle obligations, and creates stronger dependencies on organizational relationships and benefits, all while making the promoted individual feel valued, successful, and rewarded for their capabilities and contributions. This advancement serves organizational interests more than individual interests because it transforms potentially independent contributors, indispensable specialists, who cannot easily transfer their value to competitive organizations or independent ventures, while simultaneously making them so financially dependent on their elevated position that leaving becomes practically impossible. Consider how promotion traps operate through different advancement mechanisms that appear beneficial while actually serving containment functions. Increased responsibility requires deeper specialization in organizational-specific knowledge that may not transfer to other opportunities, reducing the promoted individual's flexibility and independence options while increasing their value to the current organization. Higher compensation creates lifestyle obligations and expectations that require continued high income to maintain, making career changes or entrepreneurial ventures appear financially prohibitive even when they might provide greater long-term satisfaction or independence. Elevated status within organizational hierarchies provides psychological satisfaction and social recognition that becomes dependent on maintaining position within the specific organization, creating identity attachments that make leaving feel like losing part of oneself rather than gaining freedom and opportunity. Stock options, retirement benefits, and other deferred compensation create financial incentives that require continued organizational loyalty over extended periods, preventing promoted individuals from pursuing alternatives during their most productive years when such alternatives would be most feasible and valuable. The promotion trap also operates by giving promoted individuals authority over subordinates, while keeping them subordinate to higher authorities, creating the illusion of power. While maintaining their fundamental position within hierarchies, they cannot escape without losing the benefits that their promotion provided. Executive positions often involve significant authority over operational matters, while maintaining dependence on board approval for strategic decisions, ownership approval for major initiatives, and regulatory approval for competitive moves, creating the appearance of leadership while maintaining subordination to interests that may conflict with the executive's authentic judgment or values. Professional advancement in fields like law, medicine, and consulting often requires partnership tracks that demand years of loyal service during peak productive years in exchange for partial ownership that may never fully materialize, or that comes with obligations that prevent genuine independence even after partnership achievement. Academic advancement requires tenure tracks that demand conformity to institutional expectations during formative career years in exchange for job security that often comes with limited income potential and institutional obligations that prevent independent intellectual development or alternative career exploration. The psychological insight is that promotion traps work because they provide genuine benefits and legitimate satisfaction while preventing the independent development that might eventually provide greater benefits and more authentic satisfaction if individuals had the courage and capability to pursue alternatives to continued organizational advancement. Breaking free from promotion traps requires evaluating advancement opportunities based on whether they increase or decrease your independence, whether they serve your authentic development or organizational containment needs, whether they build capabilities that transfer to other opportunities or create dependencies that prevent such transfers. The scarcity illusion. Why there's never enough for everyone. Machiavelli understood that creating artificial scarcity is one of the most effective methods for maintaining hierarchy because it makes subjects compete with each other for limited resources rather than questioning why resources are limited or challenging those who control resource distribution to everyone's benefit. The scarcity illusion operates by presenting abundance as impossible, competition as inevitable, and hierarchy as natural. When often abundance is artificially restricted, competition is unnecessarily encouraged, and hierarchy is deliberately maintained through policies that benefit those at the top, while creating artificial limitations for everyone else. This illusion serves power maintenance by redirecting potential challenges to existing arrangements into competitive struggles between subordinates who fight each other for shares of artificially limited resources, rather than working together to challenge the limitation systems that benefit established power holders more than competitive participants. Consider how scarcity illusions operate across different domains to maintain subordination through manufactured competition. Economic systems present wealth as finite and zero-sum when wealth creation is actually positive-sum, but existing arrangements channel most wealth creation benefits to those who already possess capital, rather than to those who generate value through their labor and innovation. Workers are encouraged to compete with each other for limited job opportunities, advancement positions, and compensation increases, rather than questioning why business profits and executive compensation continue rising, while worker compensation remains relatively static, despite increased productivity and value creation. Educational systems present advanced opportunities as necessarily limited to maintain quality and selectivity, when such limitation often serves to maintain institutional prestige and power, rather than to optimize learning outcomes or student development that could be enhanced through broader access and different approaches. Students compete intensely for admission to prestigious institutions rather than questioning why prestigious credentials are artificially scarce, why alternative educational approaches receive limited recognition, or why educational debt continues increasing while educational quality often decreases and employment outcomes remain uncertain. Political systems present representation as necessarily limited through districts and electoral systems that may serve existing power holders rather than citizen interests, creating competition between different groups for limited political access, rather than questioning why such access should be limited or why alternatives that might better serve citizen interests aren't available for consideration. Citizens compete for the attention of representatives who serve many different interests, rather than developing alternative approaches to collective decision-making that might actually serve citizen welfare, rather than maintaining systems that benefit from citizen disempowerment and mutual competition. The scarcity illusion prevents recognition that many limitations are artificial and serve to maintain existing hierarchies, rather than reflecting natural constraints or optimal resource allocation. When subordinates compete with each other for limited resources, they remain focused on immediate competition rather than examining whether the limitations serve everyone's interests or primarily benefit those who control resource distribution. Breaking free from scarcity illusions requires questioning whether apparent resource limitations actually serve optimal outcomes, or whether they serve to maintain hierarchies that benefit from competitive scarcity, whether cooperative alternatives might produce better results for participants, and whether abundance might be possible through different arrangements that don't serve existing power structures. The goal is not to become naive about genuine resource constraints, but to distinguish between natural limitations and artificial limitations that serve power maintenance rather than optimal resource utilization for everyone's benefit, including your own authentic interests and development. Recognition patterns, how they control your validation. Machiavelli would recognize modern recognition systems as sophisticated mechanisms for controlling behavior through strategic validation that rewards compliance while punishing independence, that acknowledges contributions that serve existing interests while ignoring achievements that might threaten established arrangements. Recognition control operates through what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement, providing validation unpredictably and conditionally in ways that create psychological dependency, while ensuring that recognition serves the recognizer's interests more than the recognized individual's authentic development or independent success. This approach is more effective than consistent recognition because unpredictable validation creates stronger psychological attachment and compliance, while conditional recognition ensures that individuals modify their behavior to earn approval rather than pursuing activities that might serve their own interests but threaten existing power arrangements. Consider how recognition control maintains hierarchy through different validation mechanisms that appear supportive while actually serving containment functions. Employee recognition programs reward behaviors that serve organizational objectives while providing minimal recognition for innovations that might lead to competitive advantages or independent value creation that could threaten employee loyalty. Workers receive recognition for increasing productivity, reducing costs, and improving customer satisfaction, all benefits that primarily serve organizational profitability, while receiving limited recognition for developing capabilities that might enable independent success or for identifying systemic improvements that might require organizational changes threatening to existing management. Academic recognition systems reward research and publication that serves institutional reputation and funding opportunities, while providing limited recognition for practical applications that might lead to independent success or for paradigm-challenging insights that might threaten established academic hierarchies and funding systems. Scholars receive recognition for conforming to accepted methodologies and supporting established theories while facing career obstacles for pursuing innovative approaches that might challenge existing academic arrangements or for developing practical applications that might lead to independent consulting or business opportunities. Social recognition systems reward achievements that serve community stability and established social hierarchies while providing minimal recognition for achievements that might inspire others to question existing arrangements or pursue alternatives that could threaten established social power structures. Community leaders receive recognition for organizing activities that support existing institutions while facing criticism or ostracism for challenging institutional practices that might not serve community members' authentic interests or for developing alternative approaches that might provide better outcomes through different arrangements. The recognition control creates what psychologists call external locus of control, dependence on others' approval for self-worth and motivation rather than internal standards and satisfaction that would enable independent action regardless of others' recognition or approval. This external dependency makes individuals vulnerable to manipulation through recognition withdrawal when they pursue activities that might threaten those who control their validation, making them easy to manage through strategic approval and disapproval rather than requiring more direct control mechanisms. The psychological insight is that recognition addiction creates loyalty that serves the recognizer more than the recognized individual, that strategic validation can prevent independent development more effectively than punishment, and that controlling what gets acknowledged controls what behaviors are encouraged and discouraged. Breaking free from recognition control requires developing internal validation systems that operate independently of others' approval, pursuing objectives that serve your authentic development regardless of recognition received, and understanding that lack of recognition may indicate the threat you pose rather than the inadequacy of your contributions. Breaking the chain, Machiavelli's path to power. Understanding how hierarchies are maintained is only valuable if it leads to strategies for transcending, rather than merely accepting your position within them. Machiavelli's insights about power maintenance can be reversed to understand power acquisition for those wise enough to recognize their subordination and courageous enough to pursue alternatives that serve their elevation rather than others' continued dominance. The first principle of hierarchy, transcendence, involves developing what Machiavelli called virtù, the capability to adapt methods to circumstances rather than being limited to approaches that others find comfortable or non-threatening. This adaptability enables you to pursue advancement through whatever means prove effective, rather than limiting yourself to approaches approved by those who benefit from your continued subordination. Virtue requires developing multiple capabilities rather than deep specialization that makes you valuable to others, while limiting your independence options. The person with diverse capabilities can create value in multiple ways and can adapt to changing circumstances rather than remaining dependent on specific organizations or relationships for their success and recognition. Strategic independence building. Begin developing capabilities and resources that reduce your dependence on others' approval, recognition or support while building alternative sources of validation, income and social connection that serve your authentic development rather than others' need for your continued subordination. This independence building must happen gradually and strategically rather than through dramatic gestures that might provoke defensive reactions from those who benefit from your current position. The goal is to build alternatives while maintaining current advantages, rather than sacrificing current benefits for uncertain future possibilities. Financial independence reduces vulnerability to economic manipulation and enables choices based on authentic preferences rather than survival pressures. This might involve reducing expenses to require less income, developing alternative income sources that don't depend on employment relationships, or building assets that provide increasing independence over time. Professional independence involves developing capabilities that create value outside existing organizational structures, building relationships that provide opportunities independent of current employment, and creating intellectual property or business systems that generate value without requiring continued subordination to others' objectives. Information sovereignty. Develop independent sources of information and analysis that serve your interests rather than depending entirely on information provided by those who benefit from your continued subordination or limitation. This involves seeking information from sources that might actually benefit from your success rather than your continued service, developing analytical capabilities that enable independent evaluation of information rather than accepting others' conclusions, and building relationships with individuals who have achieved genuine independence rather than elevated subordination. Question not just the accuracy of information you receive, but the motivations of those providing it, the alternatives that might not be presented for your consideration, and the interests served by encouraging certain beliefs and discouraging others. Alliance development. Build relationships with others who are pursuing similar independence, rather than remaining surrounded primarily by those who accept subordination as inevitable or who benefit from your continued limitation. These alliances provide mutual support for independence building, alternative perspectives on subordination systems, and potential collaboration opportunities that serve mutual advancement rather than one-sided benefit to established power holders. However, be careful to build alliances with those who are actually building independence rather than those who merely complain about subordination while taking no effective action to change their circumstances or develop alternatives. Strategic patience and timing. Understand that hierarchy transcendence typically requires extended time periods and strategic patience rather than immediate dramatic changes that might provoke defensive reactions from those who benefit from current arrangements. The goal is to build capabilities and alternatives gradually while maintaining current advantages, rather than sacrificing everything for uncertain outcomes, to choose timing based on optimal conditions rather than emotional impulses, and to advance systematically rather than impulsively. Value creation over value extraction. Focus on developing capabilities that create new value rather than simply competing for shares of existing value that others control, that serve authentic market needs rather than just organizational objectives, and that build assets and relationships that serve your long-term independence rather than short-term recognition or compensation. The person who creates value becomes harder to contain or control because they develop alternatives and options that don't depend on others' permission or approval, while those who only compete for shares of existing value remain dependent on others who control distribution of those shares. Machiavelli's ultimate warning. Niccolo Machiavelli's ultimate warning crystallizes into a recognition that may initially feel overwhelming, but ultimately proves liberating. They want you always to be beneath them, not because you lack capability, but because your capability threatens their position, not because you don't deserve advancement, but because your advancement might challenge their dominance. Not because the system rewards merit fairly, but because the system is designed to channel merit in directions that serve established interests rather than merit holders themselves. This recognition eliminates the psychological confusion that keeps capable people trapped in grateful servitude, while their capabilities are harvested for others' benefit. You don't need to be more deserving of advancement, you need to understand why your advancement is being managed rather than enabled, controlled rather than supported, channeled rather than liberated. The person who understands Machiavellian hierarchy maintenance can begin making strategic choices about whether to continue participating in systems that benefit from their subordination or to develop alternatives that serve their authentic advancement, even when such advancement threatens others who prefer manageable subordinates to independent competitors. This choice requires courage, because it often means disappointing people who have grown comfortable with your subordination, ending relationships that depend on your limitation, and accepting uncertainty about outcomes that cannot be guaranteed in advance, but that serve your authentic development rather than others' continued dominance. The warning reveals that your position beneath others may have little to do with your actual capabilities and much to do with sophisticated systems designed to prevent you from discovering and exercising those capabilities in ways that might threaten existing arrangements. Your lack of advancement may indicate the threat you pose rather than your inadequacy. Your limited recognition may reveal others' insecurity rather than your insufficient merit. Your continued subordination may serve others' psychological comfort more than any natural hierarchy based on capability or contribution. Most importantly, Machiavelli's warning shows that changing your position requires understanding power rather than hoping for fairness, developing strategic intelligence rather than working harder within systems designed to harvest your effort for others' benefit, building independent capability rather than seeking advancement through channels controlled by those who benefit from your continued subordination. The choice is ultimately yours. Continue accepting managed advancement that serves others while providing you with enough benefit to maintain gratitude and loyalty, or develop the strategic intelligence necessary to pursue authentic advancement that serves your interests, even when such advancement threatens those who prefer you, manageable, grateful, and always safely beneath them. They want you always to be beneath them because your elevation threatens their position, your independence challenges their control, your success exposes their inadequacy or reveals their exploitation of your capabilities for their benefit rather than yours. Understanding this dynamic frees you to pursue strategies that serve your authentic elevation rather than their comfortable dominance, your genuine independence rather than their continued control, your real success rather than whatever advancement they find non-threatening to their position. Stop accepting advancement that serves their interests more than yours. Start building capabilities that serve your independence rather than their continued dominance. Recognize when your merit is being managed rather than rewarded, when your advancement is being controlled rather than enabled, when your success is being limited rather than celebrated. Machiavelli's warning has been delivered. Your response determines whether you remain grateful for managed subordination or develop the power necessary to transcend hierarchies designed to keep you always beneath those who benefit from your limitation. Choose transcendence over grateful servitude. Choose independence over managed advancement. Choose the strategic intelligence that enables authentic elevation rather than the continued accommodation that serves others' need for your permanent subordination. They want you always to be beneath them. You have the power to choose otherwise. Use that power. Build that independence. Transcend their limitations. Your authentic power awaits your refusal to remain beneath those who need you there for their own psychological and practical benefit. Rise above their need for your limitation. Claim your rightful position. The warning is clear. The choice is yours. Choose elevation over subordination. Choose independence over managed advancement. Choose the power that serves your authentic development rather than their continued dominance. Begin now.